up, y'all, and welcome to our midnight ranting on our trans men. That's right. Tonight we are having a fun after show inspired modern day debate topic where we just had fun with the good dear doctor. Saw him sending love in the chat, as well as our two lovely interlocutors and Ryan. But yes, we are Midnight Skeptic. We are ranting on our trans men. Let's get into the fun. But Woo! That's right, everyone. Welcome to the not quite midnight. We've done that now twice, but Skeptic, we're
Close
ranting our trans men, where we're having a after show inspired from modern day debate where we talk about the subject. In a moment, we are going to be opening up the channels to the open mic so that you can all say what you thought about the debate or the topic itself. We'll go into some fun. I do have like an emergency PSA. I can't not say it, James. I don't know if it's my ADHD.
Brought to you by the girl
Brought
dick.
to you by the girl dick. Indeed. It's midnight someplace. Exactly. I will basically do very quick shout outs. Talk about this giant thing that's now happening because I can't not talk about it because of my ADHD. It has nothing to do with tonight's stream, but
still pretty annoying.
I don't understand, James. It gets me in ways that, I mean, it's more on topic to our channel, religion, I'll tell you.
Right.
Oh my goodness. I looked at James for a second. I was having like a good little bit of a conversation for a half a second, and then I just fell flat. And I said, I don't even know if I want to talk about gender.
It's hard to, somebody with such severe ADD, they can't focus on one topic at a time.
Well, it's just we need skeptics, James. And can I tell you what's the sad thing? And I'm not saying, I don't know I didn't get into any of my interlocutors' faith backgrounds because for better or for worse, you shouldn't bring them up in the debate unless
they don't bring topic. It up. Unless they don't go that angle, then...
Though, if you had to ask me personally, and again, I'm only bringing this up, this will make very relevant sense in a moment. But I think that's the real issue. I think that the skeptics, the atheists, the liberals, even the independents and moderates, we all just want to live in harmony, and yet it's the religious fundamentalists, James. The religious fundamentalists want their version of theocracy. Why are you talking about this, Amy? We're supposed to be talking gender. You're 5 minutes away from it. You just had a debate. We have the lovely doctor in the channel. I should be sending out the link already. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's because, and I hate to break this to you, it's not April 1st right now. Right, James? Not to date this episode.
No, it's still May.
But Apostate Prophet... Thank you. Try to be dramatic, and then Siri's just trying to take the oxygen out. Apostate Prophet just converted to Christianity. If I understand the English language decently enough to understand the title. And, he's wearing a mask right now and stuff, or a beard and stuff. I don't know if he's taking it so seriously. That's why I'm starting to, you ask yourself. But, not the first time we've seen this happen, and it just reminds me why we need this channel and why I need to so badly get us streaming again and again and again and again, James, because I just don't get it. What
Yeah,
motivates a skeptic who, for a long time, I would believe had good arguments for being an atheist? And I know the topic's gender. Well, I'll
this is
just
like an
allow
emergency.
me allow me, misfits one and
Amy
all
Newman
just to
news
rant
alert,
for a hand.
like
It is
CNN, it just
because
pops up.
it's like it feels like we're attacking a tree, like the leaves. We're attacking the misconceptions about gender and how that affects culturally in society, and unfortunately, many of our transgender friends. But the root of it, the real seed, is that these fundamentalists, you are born male, you are born female. That is it. God doesn't make mistakes. None of the shenanigans. And so, like, to watch someone like Apostate Prophet, who I know has good arguments or had good arguments for being an atheist and a skeptic, would succumb to what I view as a different superstition. Look, I don't think you're going to find a lot of love for fundamentalist Islam on this channel. Like, I'll support Palestine. I support, two-state solutions. I'm very moderate. I tend to be even lean liberal, and yet Muhammad wasn't a prophet. And so you're not going to find a lot of love from that side. And yet, to just go to Christianity, it's like saying I'm not drinking soda anymore. I stopped drinking Coke and I'm drinking Pepsi.
Yeah.
Still think that one's soda, but
One sack of bullshit for the next. It really is.
and we'll rant about it in the open mic. Let's get there, and if we get through gender and no one wants to talk about more, but I want to get through. Let's come to center. We can even do an entire review or something, James, about one of his view. I'm using my teaching language like I'm talking to my children. Everyone, come to center, please.
I think you guys pretty much controlled most of the tempo of that debate. They were pretty much on defense most of the debate. Dr. Tom, he's just spamming out these scientific facts that he knows and constructs that he does such a good job describing. And there you go.
Yeah.
With the logic, the reason, a little bit of personal experience, a little bit of sanity.
I think that's what I mostly brought. I think really just to highlight, I was making faces, but it's hard. They always say, well, ask a biologist. So they push a liberal politician and they go, well, I'm not a biologist. Well, we had a neurologist. And it is kind of fantastic because there is a biological basis, good reasons to support transgenders, using a variety of different studies showing that it is more than just a social phenomena.
It's not just your feelings. It's not just your feelings, which do count for some people. They don't think it counts, but they do.
And because we poo-poo feelings, and we generally should on the vast majority of subjects. If you want to ask about what is empirically the age of the Earth, if you want to talk about evolution, all of these things are biological questions. But what is someone's favorite ice cream flavor? What is their favorite band? How do they identify masculine or feminine? Leopard. These are there you go. And so, like, I think I'm peanut butter and chocolate, and I'm just being biased right now, but I'm saying Linkin Park because we just saw them in concert and they were amazing.
Not the worst. It's not the biggest dumpster fire that we've had, especially on this topic, April, but that was because Amy and Dr. Thompson, they really controlled the debate. The other side was more on defense. They were just trying to come up with ways around the scientific facts and logic.
Sending so much love. I would even say that they had to concede some things. I think if they were listening to us, they would fold their arms and say, concede what? But I think that they could see some of these social situations in which it really truly is just easier going with the grain, more
Right.
intuitive, just to allow trans men to do men things, be in men's
Right.
spaces,
Well,
trans women to be in
like you
women's
said,
spaces.
men normally have testicles, but if a guy gets testicular cancer and they have to amputate them
Okay, can
so they don't
I
die, are they
shouldn't be
still are they do
smiling.
they become not a man? Are they still a man? And even there, they had to concede, like, well, yeah, case like that, they're still going to be a man.
So I don't normally smile at testicular cancer. Yet my brother had testicular cancer at
Right.
the
Yeah.
age of 35, and they were wheeling him out from chemo. And uh, I guess if I didn't say it in the debate, spoiler alert, I am transgender. But he came wheeling out and he looked at me and he said, "My sister's got more balls than I do." And I went, "Yeah, yeah, yes. It sometimes happens."
It's true.
And he's not any less of a man. Um, Sending love to my brother and his car detailing business, which you should all send love out. All right, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna send the link into chat so we can. I feel like I owe it to Dr. Thompson to
Yeah.
allow
Yeah.
him to
We'll
come
get him
up,
on.
and we'll queue everyone up as well. And I'll just try and do these shout outs. Though I have one last shout out to do, and I now need to see what the sticker is because I like to let auditory. Oh goddess, I'm getting commercials. What was that? I'm gonna show super sticker. I want to send so much love. It was great streaming content there for a second. I'm sending love to
Do it to us.
Ian Davenport. Do. $20 super chat saying thanks for being you. Thank you so much, Ian. Thank you for supporting the channel and just being amazing.
Right. Right,
Um,
April. Absolutely,
all
you
right,
do. It's very hard. The concept, it's kind of nebulous. Gender, it can be ambiguous. It's not always black and white, but they want to put it into pure black and white terms, uh, because that makes them feel better. That makes them feel like they
yes.
have more of a grasp on things, that everything is black and white. Well, that's not reality.
Well, and a lot of times it's a it's either, in my opinion, a dictionary or a biology battle. That's what they want to make it. I feel like it's not great grounds when you have someone clearly with a medical background, um, able to kind of bat away, I want to say, some of those notions. I had fun. They were very respectful. I was looking at some of the past modern day debates on this subject, and it gets spicy.
It
And
can.
so I don't want to just sit here and be like, yo, they were dumb and stuff like that. No, it was a respectful debate. And this is a political
It could have been
debate
a
in
lot
some
worse.
ways. I dislike that it is a political debate because it's a very, can I tell you, James, it's a weird notion to have who you are be like a left versus
Up for
right
debate.
thing.
Yeah.
But yet
Well,
it is. And yet here we, and
and
so.
she said at one point, she said, "Oh well, so I have to change my language and use of words to make you feel better, to conform to you." And well, I mean, I don't know if people aren't aware of this, but there's lots of words we used to use decades ago that we stopped using because people found them hurtful and offensive. So uh,
Exactly.
they fell out of use because most
It's a
people don't want to
bird.
hurt other people for
No,
no reason.
exactly. The words that it goes, first of all. Not only do I go both ways, but it goes both ways. There are words that we find offensive now
Well, look at
that
that.
used to not be, and I assume that there will be words in the future that we go, oh,
Right.
well, we just use that all the time,
The
and it'll be
euphemism treadmill.
hurtful. Again, I don't want to shine light. I'm sure they changed their name by now, hopefully. But my high school team was the Neshaminy Redskins.
Well,
We changed
it,
things.
it's somebody that Big Screen Bird would know. Good to see a Big Screen Bird. It's been a while.
What's up, bird? And all right, we got Doctor behind already with us.
We do.
I am gonna just quickly do this shout out and get him on, and then we'll let him do as big as an opening as he wants. Then, if anyone would like to challenge us, if you think that we did a bad job, or you think that trans men aren't men, now is going to be the time to do so. If you think apostate prophet should be an atheist, now is the time. What are we talking about? Anyway, shout outs, lots of ways that you can keep the channel. James, did you know I might have ADHD? Do you know
I've
what
heard
the
it
tool
before.
is, though? I'll tell you the key thing here. It's notes. Heavy note taking. That's what keeps me grounded. That is how the precepts say it. That is foundationally grounds me. Yes, Matt, you can send in super chats like Ian Davenport did. Thank you so, Ian. Again, thanks for just being you.
Thanks.
As well as joining our channel membership with our evolving badge system down below. Evolution triggers creationists, and thus you get
Almost as much as gender.
almost as much as gender. James, they use gender. It's never been so hot of a topic. And I know I bring this up now like every podcast, but I just remember 20 years ago. Oh, it'll be boring. It's Jerry Springer. It's already in our culture. And then to this day, social experiments. It's just coming out. Who even heard of this? Who even heard of this? Yes, I know, because the 80s was 20 years ago. Wait, what? Wait, what? Whatever. Anyway, sending so much love. Evolving badge system, as well as our patrons at patreon.com/Amy Newman. I'm Amy Newman. This is James W. Sending so much love to, as well as Azo from our Skeptic and Ranting community. Chris Disciple reminding us we have theists in our Skeptic and Ranting community. Dave Gar reminding us that the earth is round and 4.5 million years old. We're trying to piss off as many creationists as we can, as well as trans men are men. Rachel Holland reminding us that, yes, you should not take slaves from the nations around you. Please just go to a club. Not use a club. Go to a club with the dancing and the music. That the old stuff, the Old Testament way doesn't work anymore. It works. You're just a horrific human being. I'll add that asterisk. Anyway, Rejos reminding us we have a skeptic Bible study. Again, if you're not horrible, if you're a theist, even if you're a fundy, even if you're Ted Haggard, it's completely heterosexual. As well as finally, last but not least, Ian Davenport sending so much love, reminding us all that apologetics are terrible. I don't know how they worked on apostate. I'm handling this well, James. I handled what's his face so well, didn't I? What was Jesus? What's pedo Muslim? I feel bad. I just used that as a reference. Not Kalam. Khalil. I got there eventually. Don't want to dead name him. I'm getting edgy, James. You could feel it. Sending so much love to all of our James disconnected. That's why he wasn't responding. Satan got him. That's okay. It's always fantastic to have backup co-hosts, ladies and gentlemen. This is why you keep batteries. Let's go into the open mic. We are Midnight Ranting on our trans men. Ooh, my goodness, I was just blabbing there for a second. It is good to have you on, Doctor. We are Midnight Ranting on our trans men. We just came back from our modern day debate. My question to you, what are your thoughts and anything to say on the subject?
I think that we did fine. I think that it went better than I expected. You did fantastic, of course.
Well, thank you. I think you too.
I did okay. I think that if I had to critique myself, I came in a little too hot in a few too many places. that I didn't give them the time to sort of just talk a little bit, and then I would talk over them. This is an issue that, I mean, okay, I tend to debate that way, so that's just kind of how it is. But I'm passionate
I
about this
like the
issue.
spice.
Yes, it's hard for me to hold back, and it's an issue I care about, and it's not. So yeah. So, but I think that I could have held back a little bit, but I thought it went quite well. Um, I agree with James that I think that we had them on the defense for most of it. They clearly had a plan, that they wanted to talk about the stuff that they talked about in Glock's introduction, and we just kind of ignored it for the most part. But I also think it was a good conversation too. Like, it was better than just
Well,
a semantic debate over definitions, and that's what I was afraid it was going to be. It really
I
wasn't that.
Oh no,
What did
I'm
you
sorry.
think?
I'm
No,
trying
go
to
ahead.
agree.
Go
No,
ahead.
no, no. Here I am trying to agree. The whole point was to let you have as long as an opener
Hmm.
as possible.
Oh, yeah.
But I agree. She wanted it to, I think, be about more of a dictionary definition. I think she even said so in her closer, as in it was supposed to be about general usage. I think that was a little clickbaity at the very end, if I may say so, on her, is that
Agree.
I think we did handle general usage. I think that
Mhm.
general usage is sometimes relevant. We should look at how people are using it, and sometimes we don't. That's why I went over the word theory. The
Yes.
word theory colloquially can mean, oh, I got a theory about how far I can jump on this trampoline, into the pool. It can mean a whole bunch of things to a lay audience, but when you bring it into the scientific community,
Mhm.
it means a very specific thing. You're having basically a testing standards, and a good, valid theory is the strongest thing that we have in science. And so it's not always about, well, Fred, Bill, and Jill said that we want it to be used this way and it's a democracy, so it can't be. It's that we now use sex and gender in a very specific way to mean sex on one hand, to mean the social and mental states on the other. And we can talk about them, discuss them. It
Right.
shouldn't be controversial. It should just be a social science. And I
Yes.
apologize. I really do feel like I interrupted you. I'm
Oh
handing it
no, I
right
don't think that you
to
interrupted at
you.
all. No, like, and I totally agree with that. And I think that you did a great job at making that very clear, that there's this distinction that we are making, that the word man means several different things, that there are several different definitions, just like any word. Like, most
Okay.
words that are in wide use and are relatively complex concepts, even if you look at it in the dictionary, they're going to be a bunch of different definitions. So the word man has more than just one definition, and adult human male is one of them. I admitted that it's like, okay, that is a definition, but there's
Oh, hold on. You're frozen. If you can hear me.
uh-oh. I think I'm
The
okay.
last thing is we heard there's that one definition.
Yes, there's that one definition, but then there are other definitions, of course, and that the one that we're working with is the one that actually is used in common use. That it has to do with gender expression. It's how people present themselves. It's how that they behave. These are the things that we use to identify if someone is a man. And I think that me bringing up the images and putting them through those quizzes was really illustrative of that.
I
And
think
then
you
you
made
could
it.
see it with Quick, that he kept using male pronouns to describe these people and referring to them as
Yes.
men. And then he had to sort of change what he was saying, like, oh wait, I mean person, and being very intentive about it. But
And I will say they were using she, her pronouns for me, whether they were doing that out of respect for me of the debate
right.
or whether whatever. I mean, I've
I
had
mean, it's
people.
like, the thing is, if they ran into Michael Hughes, who I kept talking about at the end, the advocate who was, went quite viral when they were talking, when he was talking about the bathroom debate about whether transgender people should be allowed in the sex that they identify as, or the sex that's on their birth certificate. And it's like people just use their brains. If you live in America, if you live in a society, you are going to know what a man is. And if someone is identifying and expressing themselves in a certain way, it's just instinct to use the proper pronouns, unless someone says something, or if something is ambiguous, if someone is if there's someone's presenting as in an ambiguous way, um, I think that it's probably okay to be like, well, what do you prefer? Like, I want to use whatever pronouns you
You
prefer.
might make an
But
honest mistake, but there's a
yes,
difference between those and people trying to be hurtful and mean.
Exactly.
right. But it's like, come on, it's just obvious, and so it's easy to default, and they want to not do it, but it's hard because cognitively,
It's
the
so
trans men I
easy.
kept showing clearly look like men, and like, how can they sit there and call them she, her, or a woman?
And
And
Your Honor, I would like to put forward that all of them were hot.
They have to
that was
try hard
intentional,
not to
actually.
get it.
Okay.
It's really simple. They have to try really hard to make it more complicated than it needs to be.
Yes.
Yes, in fact, not to tie it to something we were just talking a moment ago, but it reminds me sometimes of the creationists in that they make it truly more difficult, more muddy sometimes. And I'm not saying that was our interlocutors doing that. I just mean the handlers or the people pushing this at top levels. And she did kind of try to push me back because I do get that now. I say you guys are obsessed with gender identity politics, and they go, "Oh, you to insert." And I go, yeah, really? Like, we had our issues, but like, I don't know. It was also like the Y2K bug was coming out at the time. So like things we get over them. Um
Yes.
and yes, so in my opinion, it is them. Again, not these two my specific interlocutors, but the conservative or the reactionary, especially these social religious conservatives that are pushing these notions, keeping it in the limelight because it does make them emotional. They sit there and they highlight, again, not my interlocutors, but like we'll go 84, insert whatever number, don't want, and it's always how you frame a question too. Said, don't want men in women's sports. Well, I mean, I don't want men in women's sports either. But that's because I think that a trans man's a man, a trans woman is a woman. So it is
Right.
also how you word things, how you can politically motivate people.
Exactly.
And it seems to be right now, while abortion seems, unfortunately, for better or for worse, momentarily defeated, it is their social issue of choice. And that's why we're here, in my
Sure.
opinion.
And I like the abortion issue, you bring it up. I think that that's actually a good example of how the pendulum can swing, and that now it's clearly that's an issue that is highly motivating to the left side of the spectrum, the political spectrum, and that you can see that the right side now, as far as abortions is concerned, they're the dog who caught the car finally, and now they don't know what to do with it. So
Truly.
yeah, absolutely. So
Well,
sorry, what?
I was just gonna say they did the reductio ad absurdum where they talk about like the gender reveal and like you don't know what it was. It's like, okay, we realize that 99% of the time the gender is going to match the bio. You can assume that as a default. The only thing comes when there's a problem with that, where that doesn't match, and you don't find that out until later in life when they start to gravitate towards the other gender.
Can I also point something out? And I hate to frame it this way, although it's true. It's just like funerals. It's funerals are there for the living, gender reveal parties are for the adults. I mean, it's not like
Of course.
the child is coming out and be like, holy moly, I'm
That's
a
right.
what now? And
Right.
so these are just cultural events that we
The
have
baby's not even
created.
there, right? Like, you're doing
Yes,
this at usually
exactly.
like month 5 or month 6 of the pregnancy, and
Because
yeah,
they're
obviously it's
excited.
just for the adults.
I
Yeah.
don't want to shame them. Like, you don't have to stop doing it just because I pointed out. I still want people to do funerals. It's the right thing to
Right,
do.
exactly.
It's just that these are things we built culturally. I also have, just
Exactly.
really quickly, just want to send shout outs to sending love. What's up, the freak? And what is up, the sinister porpoise and Ember? Sending love to all those lovely people out there.
Meet everyone out
Um,
there. I think
But
they all came from a Mark Reed stream. So thank you,
yes,
Mark.
and
Yeah,
I
I
not
saw that Mark
only
was streaming earlier, and I saw Ember was over there, and now they're here, which is really nice.
yes, sending love. You should all check
We
out
appreciate
Mark
that, Mark.
Reed's channel. Check out Ember on all of the fish. She's all over the place. You should see the fantastic content that she does and them doing it together. Again, like peanut butter and chocolate to bring it back. I had a callback. Yes. But yes, we are ranting. In fact, on our trans men, I think that all three of us would say yes. Not because again chromosomes
Yes.
suddenly change. That what I normally get very quickly sometimes are people that say, "You don't believe in biology?" Like as if that's not a loaded question. Wait, biology's real? Yes, I do. But it's that we're putting on a different hat. I would say, first of all, it is a social, I sometimes almost choke on the word psychological phenomena. However, there's good biological backing too. Like Dr. Chris was saying,
Yeah.
our transgender brains tend to be swerved a little bit towards their the gender that they identify as. Does that mean that it matches up perfectly with a biological woman? No, but it is evidence that at least there's a phenomena going on here.
Exactly.
Well, that's
Yeah.
well,
That
that's
was the
what I
point I was
told.
trying to make.
That's I actually told that to Ken Hovind when I talked about the development, fetal development before, with the different chemicals that the the fetus is exposed to in utero and how that affects where you could almost see how something like that could um, result in a discontinuity. You can see how
Absolutely.
that could
Yes.
result in someone feeling that their body doesn't.
Exactly. Right. The thing is
You're
the
supposed to do
hormones.
you're
Yes.
invalid, you're wrong.
Mhm. Right. And the thing is, like, so in the course of development, um, when the bipotential gonad goes towards a testis, that those testes in utero start to produce a huge amount of testosterone. The levels that are found inside the fetal bloodstream are at the levels that are seen at like a teenage young man. They get very, very high, and
Oh
so then
boy, that's
in
severe.
right, it's really, really high. So this is happening in utero, and this happens just for those that are undergoing like an XY um, chromosome arrangement that has typical testes and the SRY is functioning. There are exceptions to this because there's intersex and sometimes things get deviated. So then a typical female will not have any change in hormones whatsoever. So no estrogen at all. The ovaries are not producing estrogen until they reach puberty. They're not producing substantial amounts of estrogen, I should say. So, but in these young baby boys, there's this surge in testosterone, so it goes around the body and it masculinizes certain features of their body, including the clitoris, turning it into a penis, and then also closing the the vulva so that it is now closed. That this then becomes the scrotum. Testes descend, and then they go down into the scrotum. That whole process
Then it's
happens
becoming
because of
ovaries.
testosterone, but then it gets up into the brain, and from there, it's going to act on brain areas. There is some androgen activity that occurs there, but in fact, what happens in the brain, which is really, really interesting, is that it gets converted into estrogen there. So all that testosterone gets converted into estrogen via an enzyme called aromatase, and then it actually masculinizes brain areas by acting on estrogen receptor in those brains.
And
So
can I
if you have like say a condition called like what I referred to in the debate, congenital adrenal hyperplasia. So these are women who have adrenal glands that are producing too much testosterone in utero. That gets up into the brain, and we see that their brains are also somewhat masculinized. And that's one of the reasons why so many congenital adrenal hyperplasia are much more women who are born with that condition are much more likely to identify as male once they get a little older and learn what gender is. They also tend to express very much male-like play, even though they have X chromosome arrangement, and they also have like a vagina, but also a micropenis. So it's all complicated, and yeah, like you said, James, like of course you can envision all kinds of things happening at the chemical level in utero that could influence those brain circuits as they're developing, and it typically works out perfectly fine in that it gets arranged the way that say the chromosomes would have intended, with those that are XY with a brain that matches the XY chromosomes, or if it's XX, a brain that matches the XX. But it's not going to always work out exactly like that. And there's ambiguity that occurs. There's also variability too, right? It's not as going to be as clearly bimodal as it is. It's just X, Y, and XX. A male brain is going to vary enormously across all males, even though they're all cisgender. And a female brain is going to vary quite a bit as well, even though they may all be cisgender. But then there's going to be some where it gets a little crossed. And that's totally understandable since we all work with the same starting material. Anyway, I'm lecturing right now.
No, I just wanted to. I'll be honest with you. It was an honor, again, having someone who can speak neurology when generally speaking, it is just a bunch of lay people. And I think that they come in with a bunch of misconceptions. And so it is nice to have you be able to walk them through it.
Well, appreciate it.
Well, there are babies born XY, but because their body can't respond to the testosterone, they develop into females. But and they sometimes don't realize anything is wrong until they're 13 and they're not menstruating, and then they take them to the doctor. What's going on? And they say, oh, your daughter is XY. She's biologically a male. She doesn't have ovaries. She doesn't have a uterus. But she
has a vagina.
A girl. Right.
Yes.
She has a vagina.
So the thing
she can live her life as a normal girl.
Right. Exactly. So that condition is known as complete androgen insensitivity syndrome. And so basically what happens in those cases is that they usually have a mutation in the androgen receptor. Hormones work by circulating around the body and then acting on hormone sensitive targets. Those cells and tissues are going to be hormone sensitive because they're expressing the receptor. It's a lock and key mechanism. And if the lock, which is the receptor, is broken, then the key can't work. So those individuals that are born with the, like you said, they have XY chromosome arrangement, which means they have an SRY gene, which causes the bipotential gonad to turn into a testis. The testes start producing a ton of testosterone, so much testosterone that's much higher than you would typically find in an XY chromosome baby that has a functioning androgen receptor. But the brain can't see it because of the broken androgen receptor. So it doesn't know how to turn down the testosterone that's being produced by the testes. And so it doesn't matter how much testosterone they produce because it can't actually masculinize the baby. So then that means that the clitoris doesn't get masculinized. So they have normal clitori, they have normal vaginas. But as you said, they do not produce a uterus. They do not produce ovaries. They actually have testes. And they don't even know. So at the gender reveal, if let's take that scenario. In an ultrasound would show that this is a girl. So that gender reveal for that individual would have been pink, pink balloons or pink whatever, right? Then the child would have been born. They would have seen that there's a vagina. Nothing would have been obvious that there's something unusual about this child. And they go through normal development. They typically act like girls during that development. And then they, as you said, they start to reach puberty, and then they don't have typical menses. So they don't actually start to menstruate. Usually they don't get seen until about age 15 or so because, like sometimes girls are late for whatever
reason. Could be just late. So, yeah.
Yes. And so the mother will usually take, they'll get taken into the doctor. The doctor says, okay, this is going to come as a shock, but it turns out you actually are XY, you have no uterus, you actually have testes, that you're producing a huge amount of testosterone. But one of the benefits of being complete androgen insensitivity syndrome is that they actually have really good skin. So they tend to not have oily skin. Oily skin tends to come from the fact that we have testosterone acting. This is true in both men and women. They also rarely ever need to shower because they actually don't produce body odor because they don't produce this oil on their skin. So they don't have, so the body odor that we produce is because we have oil in our skin and we have bacteria on our body that likes to chew it up and eat it, and it stinks. And so they don't actually have much BO at all. And so many of these individuals take a shower once a week. If they're not dirty, they don't need to.
Beautiful skin and don't need to shower.
Yes. It's really unfair.
I know.
And no acne whatsoever. I know. It's cruel.
You need some sort of serum to get that.
Do their breasts develop normally?
So that's an interesting question. Not entirely, but a little bit. So one thing that used to be the case, the way people with complete androgen insensitivity syndrome used to be treated, is that they would remove the testes, thinking that that would be something that would be helpful. What we found is that, in fact, that tends to have problems because the testes, it's okay if they're in there because they're not really doing anything to masculinize the person because they have no functioning androgen receptor. But with that much testosterone, as I mentioned, testosterone can be converted into estrogen. So with testosterone being so high, they are able to get some estrogen production that occurs because of the aromatization that occurs in tissues, and there's a little bit in the testes as well. So that estrogen at puberty can feminize some features. So they do get some of the hip changes,
The
and they do
hips
develop breasts,
expand.
but
Yeah.
it's not quite like what you see in a
Can
typical.
I just, I'm going to give an anecdote and then we're
Yep.
going to get Sinister in here. But thank you again, also, Doctor, for coming on. I just want to give you the opposite, a layperson's experience. When I was first starting to get a hormone prescription, they have to sit you down and be like, listen, if you take too much of this estrogen, you will start masculinizing. You need to understand that your
Yeah.
body will start churning out the opposite. So you can think you're going to take more and oh my, you're going to feminize faster. Don't do that. And so
Yep.
it's just funny from the opposite point of view.
Yes, absolutely.
Isn't that
Yeah.
isn't that part of the reason why like anabolic steroids can cause feminine type features to develop long term with use, or is that something unrelated?
So okay. Anabolic steroids tend to have some demasculinizing features. It's for a slightly different reason than what Amy was talking about. What happens for if you're taking excess testosterone and if you're abusing it, especially, what that does is that it induces negative feedback on the brain. So the brain, the way we synthesize sex steroid hormones in a normal sort of healthy case is that it works a lot like a furnace. So the furnace, if you think about the way a furnace works, is that you have a thermostat, right? And you set the thermostat. Let's say you come home from like a vacation and you turn your thermostat down and it's really, really cold. And so, but you don't want it to be cold. So you turn the thermostat up, you turn it up to a higher temperature. That's sort of like what happens when you reach puberty, right? So all of a sudden, basically, we need more heat. The heat is similar to the gonads, the testes, and the thermostat is the brain. So the brain says, oh, you know what? We need a little bit more testosterone. So all of a sudden, the testes start to produce testosterone just as your furnace is going to produce heat. Then once it reaches enough heat, it acts back onto the thermostat to say, oh, you know what? You don't need to be on anymore. We're now at the right temperature. So let's turn off. And so then the thermostat turns off. And then it gets a little bit cooler and then the thermostat turns on and now you're at a new level that's higher, that's say like in puberty, but it's going to go up and down and up and down. And that's how sex steroid hormones work as well. So it is typical that like a normal healthy adult man will have about 4 surges per day of testosterone because it's almost as if it's like their thermostat is being turned on and off. Now, if you take excess testosterone, you are now acting on your thermostat saying like, oh, you know what? We have plenty of testosterone. Maybe we don't need to turn on our testosterone. So then the signal that goes from the hypothalamus to the testes goes way down. And then the testes start to regress because they're not getting the signal from the brain saying, like, you know what? We need testosterone. So you should be doing it because they're getting enough exogenously by taking injections. So that can have then demasculinizing effects on the testes. So then you can have reduced sperm count actually with too much testosterone. The testes can actually shrink and it actually can be permanent. It can be very tough to recover.
I do want to answer one more thing, and then I want to get Sinister in here, but then I'm going to answer my lay, and then if Dr. Chris wants to respond. But, oh, and I do want to do a shout out. You should all not only be going, go to Mark Reed's channel. I saw Maya out there, sending love to her. You should go check out Maya's content, send love to Victoria, Native Atheist. But Mark Reed asked, is it correct that there are cancer risks? Can I tell you the funny thing about this poker card that is being transgender? So imagine that your risk of prostate cancer goes down and your risk of breast cancer goes up. Woo! Pick your poison. That's my layperson's answer from what I've researched. Doctor, do you have anything?
I don't know the cancer risk. 'Cause, this obviously is outside of my area of expertise. I've taken a personal, um, yet professional interest in this issue, and I come at it from a behavior
I
neurobiological
agree.
perspective. So when it comes to cancer, it's just like, okay, I take your word on it. I
But
don't.
it's one of those, at
That makes
least from the
sense, though.
research from that I have done, and I tend to think of myself as a skeptic who doesn't trust RFK Jr. What are politics? Don't talk about. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the subject. Anyway, um, yes, is that you do have some risks that go up, some that go down. It depends on if you're taking a puberty blocker, you need to make sure that you get vitamin D and calcium and things like that, because really a puberty blocker, what it's doing, at least my version of the puberty blocker, is it is a uh, blood pressure pill. And so you just need to pay attention to all of those things, but worth it in the end, and very happy. Okay, keep on sending in. If you tag either myself at Amy Newman or at James W, we'll show your question on the screen or at least interact. But we're going to add one more to the mix. Sinister Porpoise, welcome. We're
Sinister.
Midnight Ranting on our Trans Men. How are you? What are your thoughts about the debate or anything we would talk about tonight?
Actually, I was out, so.
That's okay. What are your thoughts about the subject?
Yes, trans men are men.
All right. Good night, folks. We're going to play
That's
the
it.
outro.
That settles
Well
it.
said.
Well, I mean,
There's not much more that needs to be said. No, yeah. I mean, that's where we're at, and it's the debate
everybody
was.
agrees.
Yeah, I felt like Amy. I mean, I think that we did a good job. Do you think? What would you say? Would you want to change anything?
I'll tell you, there was one moment in the center where I was answering coherently, and then I felt like I had to have a refocus. All the other points, I think we did a pretty good job. I think for the vast majority of the debate, I would hand it to us. I think that we answered their questions well. I think they want to have both some sort of biological explanation of what's going on. And then I think gentle reminders that this really isn't a dictionary battle. It's about people's lives and just trying to, the therapists didn't do this. The medical community didn't do this with the attention of everyone. Again, they didn't bring this up, but to become cultural Marxists, they did it because, people came to them with problems and said, I need a way to function in life. And programs like gender affirming care and transitioning were developed. And it was drawn out of a need from people. I want to just boohoo one other conspiracy theory away. Wasn't brought up in the discussion, but I often get, and it's easy, an easy sell to the liberals. You're just pro pharma. You just want to give doctors and these medicine people, you just want them to make. I understand. Yes, I do technically, I think, pay $30 or whatever the heck it is for estrogen. But I always say, put that up against like the religious corporations that are, and the super conservative think tanks that are drawing in all this money, and you want to really put a focus on the pharmacist. And it's not even the pharmacist, it's really just your GP either giving you a refill, or it is some sort of endocrinologist and you're having some sort of discussion about hormones. But all of those people make more money, I think, on other things. They really don't need us. But yes.
That's absolutely true. And I think that you did a great job humanizing the issue, which definitely obviously speaking from your own personal experience, but just the way that you were talking about it, it was really very effective and disarmed them in many ways, I think.
You think? Oh,
I do. I
man,
really
I'm
do. I think
glad
it
to
was
hear
done
that.
really, really well, very expertly. And also I can see that you're coming in. I was like the bulldog. I wanted to fight with them and really get at it and like,
Amy
show with
tries
my
to
teeth.
build bridges
Yes.
and
Yeah, but
find
Amy was
common
the
ground.
opposite. Like, no, I'm thinking that there's an audience here beyond these two people that we're talking to. So I need to also communicate to the audience. I've got a message I want to send to everyone. And you hit all the right points. And I'm so glad that you were there
Thank
tonight.
you.
It's
I'm
like,
just glad you were there. I feel like, again, it is a point that I think liberals often try to say, I am out of my expertise. Why are you asking me this? And I think sometimes the conservatives and the reactionaries, they take that as like a clip and they go, oh, look at this person. They're asking for a biologist. And all the question was this, are they a woman? Or things like that. But I think it becomes much harder to make that plea when you have someone trying to sit them down and explain to them why there is not only a good biological backing, but I think you also hit on some of the social, it would become potty police to
yes,
truly try
exactly.
and enact
And that's what
what
I
I,
was trying to really get into. And the other reason, so like when James originally reached out to me, he was asking if I would want to do this, and then he thought of you to add it into the mix once he found two people on the other side. Um, I wanted to have the debate. He asked like, okay, well, you want to debate on are trans women, and I'm like, okay, we can do that. But I do want to shift it up a little bit because they do that a lot over at Modern Day Debate. I'm like, let's just do
That's the
trans men.
normal.
They've done that as well, but it
That's getting
removed.
cliche.
Yes, exactly. So like the issue around sports, like they want to talk about sports, and they kept talking about Leah Thomas. Um, that becomes a debatable topic. But if the issue is about trans men, then it removes the issue of sports for the most part, right? You see, when I
Mhm.
asked them, like, do you want these guys? I showed them a picture of a bunch of very handsome, beautiful trans men who are very
Very
masculine with big
masculine.
muscles. Yes, like that dude with the muscles. I'm like, God, I would love to have a body like that. And I'm asking, do you want this person playing in women's sports? Because this is the converse of what you're asking. I get that you're talking
Right.
about Leah Thomas. You want to talk about Leah Thomas. Reason why I wanted the debate to focus on trans men is just so that we're taking the other side here, which they often want to ignore, and say like, if we have it your way, then these big bulking men have.
Wow.
oh, you stopped it. I heard big bulking men, which isn't a bad point to go over as many times as possible.
Yeah, when I ever okay, I'm gonna wait.
As an asexual, it doesn't really matter to me.
There you go. You're like,
I would say one thing that
This is
a
the
point that
problem. When
needs
you
to be
start talking
made.
about big bulking men, it just throws off the internet.
the algorithm crashes
Yes,
for
of
good
course.
reason.
Yeah.
One
So
thing
when
I think
yeah,
a
go ahead.
point
What
that
were you
needs
saying?
to be made real quick is that this is not something new. People have always had these gender issues. They've always been
Yes.
here. It's just they were for up until recently in most cultures they were marginalized. They were not allowed to
Exactly.
express their gender in ways that you know that they feel is appropriate. They were forced to conform to what other people think they should express their gender.
Yeah, but the whole thing isn't about like fairness in sports. It really isn't. First off, if you've ever been on the internet, it's like people want to argue with you like they're some kind of expert. And no offense, but why do you expect me to be an expert in like sports medicine when you're not?
Sure. And can I also, I want to point attention to that because there's a reason, just like Dr. Chris was saying, there's a reason they want to talk about sports. There's a reason they frame it like 80 per, look at this headline, 80% brilliant sports, because they don't want to talk about every other issue. Like generally speaking, actually, letting transgenders use the bathroom, very popular. Letting transgenders use the locker room, a little bit less, but still very popular because they know culturally that's actually the easier thing to do. And most people, I think, trust the institutions,
Right.
as in like if there's a pervert, they're going to jail. It doesn't matter We
Right.
already have those
Exactly.
systems put
Whether
in
they're a
place.
cis man or a trans man or a cis woman, trans woman, doesn't matter. You're a pervert. You're a pervert.
You're a
You're going to
pervert.
jail.
Right.
And so
So
they
it-
want to do sports because it is literally the only time where all the liberals, all the scientists have to stop and we go, fine, maybe we do have to have a nuanced discussion. But the other 90% of things really were basically, not to harp, I see Mark talking about in chat, it's a dictionary battle. We brought that up
Yes.
before. It's literally, it used to say it like this, but you want to say it like this? Yes, yes.
Because what are we supposed to do? Are we going to have Jesse Lee Peterson and Ted Haggard doing genital inspections, making sure everybody has a penis before they go in the men's room?
That's what they want
Gotta
to
have
happen.
one. You gotta
Okay.
have a dick, or you don't go.
Yeah, but I don't think you realize, like, Amy and I kind of actually want to see that. Not because it would be good, but just because it would be funny.
No, I
it
know.
would be funny.
Because having them do any sort of logistics would be a nightmare. And so, yes,
God.
having them go, oh, okay, potty
No
police.
vagina allowed in the bathroom.
Because
in the
what
men's room.
happens, what happens, and not to be fair, because we all like different masculine, feminine, whatever, but when these horrible things actually do, the 1 or 2 states where they do actually get enacted, what happens is they go after masculine biological women. More often than not, what ends up happening is people start to police, they start to become these gender sex vigilantes where they are going to decide who should use the bathroom. In other words, it is untenable. I am going to bring up a question. DVK asks, Sinister and Amy, doesn't it feel a little silly, ridiculous even, to have me be affirmed that for the billionth time, as it were a reasonable doubt? I want to give one answer and then I'll hand it over to Sinister. James knows my answer. It feels like Groundhog's Day. Like, I'm sending love to James and Modern Day Debate. I'll continue to want to do LGBTQ debates and represent my community. But I remember 20 years ago, again, maybe I'm just getting older, but them being like, look, it's the hot new thing. Give it a year or two, and eventually it's going to be boring. But it hasn't. What do you think, Sinister?
I think we should start calling this the Transtanic Panic.
Transtanic Panic. I like it.
Going back to the 80s, because it's immoral outrage. It's not real. They're just
Yes.
trying to find a wedge issue because they lost the gay marriage thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's actually, to even be more specific, because they lost gay marriage and they won abortion and they're left scratching their heads. I think Dr. Chris used this example. They're like dogs who finally caught the dog catcher.
That's
And
right.
so they don't really know what to do with themselves. And so they're like, oh my God, well, this looks like a social issue that'll stick. Meanwhile, I'll continue to say this. When they're talking about, and I don't want to get too liberal, my hair is going to turn blue, but the more they talk about illegal
Can't get any
immigrants,
bluer.
I know, listen, I mean, my piercings are going to multiply. But when they're talking about immigrants or transgenders, check your wallet. Just make sure that you got your credit card and your Social Security is still left, because they're using those two issues because they are highly emotional issues. The data can be driven in very specific ways. And so I almost wish I would
brothers
tell
don't
my
care.
straight. Exactly. The Koch brothers don't care. What I would
They don't
tell
care who uses what bathroom.
exactly. Well, that's the greatest irony of all. The handlers of these, and I use that word, they're handlers, don't give up about trannies. They don't care. They're libertarians. All they want is the lowest tax rate possible, but they know. They say, I know what these, and again, I'm role playing as them. Don't say I'm saying this, but they're like, I know what those religious freaks want. We're going to talk about trans, and we're going to keep on talking about trans until they can't but, piss themselves. No pun
Drag
intended.
queen
talking
story
about
hour.
bathrooms. Exactly. Drag
Oh.
queen story every hour. And they won't mind that we're actually kind of skimming money over to the Cayman Islands at a 0% tax rate. You know what I mean? Like,
That's exactly it. Yeah.
We are the canary. Like, we're talking about trans issues, But as a cultural issue, we are the canary in the coal mine. They're really trying to rob you. They're trying to take your Social Security and a million other things.
Yep, and Medicare and
Your
Medicaid.
Medicare, your Medicaid.
Absolutely. So I totally agree with you. And those, like, this is an issue that's, for whatever reason, does tickle the brain in just the right way for their audience to get excited. And then of course we respond and we gotta do our thing.
Gotta do
But
the
you're
dance.
absolutely right. Like, this is obviously just a distraction program where they don't, and they want to take the conversation off of, like, just how devastating these tariffs are. And
Yeah, that's not working.
of course,
$400 million plane. Anything
yes,
else?
exactly. So,
And again,
yeah,
not to say that it isn't a real. Some of the issues aren't real
sure.
issues or worthy of having conversation. Again, I'm happy that we had the debate. We keep on doing it. Nonetheless, this is a political football. It's being used so that they can motivate people that otherwise would probably be very unattractive politics.
Yep. Mark has a really good point on that in the chat. Yep.
Well,
That's exactly right.
Always choose a vulnerable group, and it's always the last group. That we really
It
are
is.
the last
Yes.
one,
Yeah,
and so
demons.
that's why.
Right. It was gay and lesbian people, bisexual people, and as you pointed out, they kind of won. They've been fully accepted, and even conceded that point. So this is now the issue. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to debate binaries. I mean, either whether 1 or 0 is the better number for it. But
So yeah, what do you mean?
True,
Like,
it's a
whether
good
I think,
debate.
because we keep talking about, like, basically there's trans men.
hold on.
And
Yeah, but
yes,
gender isn't a binary.
right. Yes,
It's not.
exactly. It is not. I would argue that it's not a binary. Obviously, it isn't. It is bimodal. But bimodal doesn't mean that it's a non-overlapping distribution. There can be overlap in a bimodal distribution, and obviously there is. And that's where you're going to find those who are, say, non-binary.
Well, and I often
We didn't
get
talk.
some people that say, "Were you
Hello, Athena.
railroading?" Hi, baby. But I get some people that say, "Are you railroading over femboys? You're saying that a man can't be feminine, or are you saying a woman can't be masculine? Are you saying if
man
she is
can't wear a
masculine, she
tutu?
becomes a man?" Exactly, and it's like, no, that's the whole point of it being a spectrum. I would say that a trans woman is just the high side of feminine. And then it gets, you come over here, you become femboy. You come over here, you become a straight, or not straight. You become a masculinized male. I
Right.
think it's okay to talk in spectrum. It doesn't mean there has to be 56. I hate that because it comes from Mark Zuckerberg, and he doesn't give up about trans people. That is clear by now.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and the thing is, like, yeah, I mean, like, there are behaviors and ways of expressing oneself that we generally associate with either femininity or masculinity, and in general it all matches. But there obviously are plenty of people who, like, to give out my shout out to the femboys. Right, exactly. They identify as men. That isn't a thing, right? So it's not as if that they have a gender identity that doesn't match their biological sex and their natal sex, but they have certain features and things, or they just feel more comfortable having some feminine expression, and that's okay, right? Like, it doesn't it's a spectrum, and it's not a binary.
Indeed.
That's absolutely the case.
Can I also bring up one more point, and then I'm going to be right back for a second. I'll hand it to find people's. I gave my ADD too much. Go talking. I rambled into forgetting my point.
Well, one point I would like to make is although there are 2 trans women on this panel right now, I don't know if there are any trans men.
I don't think so.
Oh,
So,
I
but we're talking
remembered
about
my
trans
point.
men.
I remembered my
Right.
point. I'm sorry. I think my brain. It is midnight, but they don't want the conservatives. If they would accept this guy who has a beard, is maybe identifies as a man, but is wearing makeup and has a dress. There isn't really a space for them. I feel like there's a space that we have. You're able to identify as you are, come as you are, but they're not really coming around and saying, well, I want that. They're saying, well, I want traditional. They're saying, I want men to do masculine things and women to do feminine things, but also transgenders can't exist. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They want in some examples they say, well, you're just using stereotypes. You know, what's a woman? Well, a woman is someone who culturally wears dresses more. They tend to wear makeup more. We have all of
Maybe
these
behave
cultural
in certain feminine
connotations.
mannerisms, right? You know.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
what I get is, well, you just want them to be you're just giving us stereotypes. You're just stereotyping. And so really you're just a
They
misogynist.
put the
And I
seat too
go,
close to the steering wheel in the car.
and so I ask them, would you be okay? And sometimes the turfs, the radical feminists will say, oh, I'd be okay with having men with beards and dresses, and I'd be proud to call them my child and all this. And yet I feel like, and again, this is just my feeling,
they're
my
both.
gut, that a conservative dad might struggle if their son came home and said, listen, I'm not trans. I know I'm a man and a male, and yet I want to wear dresses and I want to wear makeup, and sometimes I want to do it with my beard out.
I agree. I
If
think that would
society
probably be
was
even
that
harder.
open,
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
I wish
Yep.
we were there. I wish
No,
we
I
were at that
agree. Right.
postmodern society,
Yeah.
but we're not. We live in this culture that generally gives us this two buckets.
Right.
And so it allows us, as we transition, to
Either
get to that bucket, feminine or masculine, and then ultimately
hi, Victoria.
go do other things.
Well,
You want to live life.
This is also, I mean, currently a computer science grad student working my master's, but if they want to go back to all the Bible genders recognized in like the Old Testament times, I'm willing to go back to all 6 of them, I think. I mean, I'm not Jewish.
See, now here's the thing with that. That comes from the Talmud, and and you can argue because technically it's rabbis. The rabbis having discussions about the different weather, and so yes, if you were to look at it from that, because sometimes the Tanka gets a
Rabbinic Judaism.
little bit stony, and not like I always say. The slogan should be "Don't stone gays, get gays stoned." But yes, I would be open for true. What is it? True spirit, two spirit.
Two-spirit.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Right. Two-spirit concept. Yeah. And I actually, James, because you brought that up, I believe that was you. That's where we left out the historical record of the transgender experience, because
Right.
that was definitely something that
They've
we could
always
have hit
been.
on.
They've always been
Yes,
around. This is
exactly. Of
nothing new.
course. Yes, it's
And
not
the
anything new. We totally could have hit on that, and that's definitely one thing I think we probably should have included. But
the
So
reason that they come after trans women is because it fits a very specific niche, and in my opinion, and once again, I'll even say sometimes I'm a moderate. I sometimes have conservative principles, yada yada, but there's this one phrase that comes to the back of my mind, and that's someone, please save the women and children. And I feel like they get behind that quite often. And oftentimes, I would also like to point the flag down that in most cases, they don't care about the women or the children, that they are just disregarding them, if not using them as body flak. Not saying that about our interlocutors, but
Listen, these people, they don't care about trans kids. They are not up at night worried about, all they care. They just want fewer people to transition. That's all they care about. And if that causes problems, if kids get depressed and have mental health problems because of that, that's well worth it, because fewer people transition. That's all that matters.
Exactly. Ends justify the means.
Exactly.
Also,
Well,
Mark Reed.
I'm going to slightly disagree with that one, because I think some of these really just don't want trans people to exist at all. Especially someone I was arguing
I think that's what James was. I think James was saying that don't want them to transition, but you're just going one step further, which I agree. I think there's both of those camps. Don't want them to transition, don't exist. I mean, it says very clearly. It says very clearly in the Old Testament what they're supposed to do to us.
Yeah, but wait, I don't recall trans people being mentioned at all now.
Well, it's complicated. It says thou shalt not wear clothing not of one's sex, or how. I'm trying to remember how you can't be a cross-dresser. So it depends on how you want to go into the details of it, because I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Old Testament, and yet there are more liberal passages within the Talmud, especially if you go into the conversations. And so both those things. I'll even give another olive branch to Jews. Although the Old Testament, I would say he's definitely a really angry God that is not nice. The Jews follow it the least. They generally know that it is a outdated type of thing. They've made it all allegory, and
look at that.
I am not wearing a woman's clothes. These are my clothes. Well, I am wearing a woman's clothes, but these are my clothes.
They are. I like that. I'm going to say this, then we'll get Mark Reed on. But they're not women. Eddie Izzard quoted as saying, "They're not women's clothes. They're my clothes. I paid for them."
Yes, that's
what I think we were trying to say, because that reminded me so much of that quote. All right, we're gonna get
that's
Mark
the actor,
Reed.
right? Lizard.
Eddie Izzard. It is the comedian. He is or she. I should say, because I think that she.
Yeah, I think she came out.
She was genderqueer for a very, very long time before that was even a thing. Though in 40 years they'll tell us it wasn't a thing and it's just coming out now. Whatever. I'm not bitter, or resentful about this at all, James. At all. Anyway, let's add Mark Reed in. Mark, we are Midnight Ranting on our Trans Men. Lovely having you. What are your thoughts about anything we've been talking about or the subject?
I did not see the debate. I usually avoid those debates just because they're just it's just obnoxious people going, you think women are women, and just seriously, guys, can you please just give some sort of argument for what you think. I don't know. It's of course trans men are men, and as I said earlier, to have a dictionary definition, dictionaries aren't authoritative of any kind of word. All they do is say, hey, this is how people are using it in society. Let's write that down. So generally we'll have a normative definition. They don't actually define anything. So, going to a dictionary automatically tells you nothing. I wanted to say to Dr. Thompson, I saw an Australian artist who is a intersex girl. Her name's Bloom, and she was... the thing that led me to watch her first thing was she had a short saying, I have testicles in my tummy. And it was so cute. And so, you know what I mean? Just so amazing. Yes. And I think I heard from her that she has a greater risk of cancer. But as long as you keep an eye on it and she gets tested, it's totally fine. And she's really nice and sweet and talks out about intersex issues because, she thought she was a girl, and I mean, she still is a woman,
Right.
but she wasn't born a woman, and boy, does she not look like a woman. A man, sorry. I tell you what,
Right.
like very, very attractive, very, very nice. You know,
Yeah,
and
exactly. People with complete androgen insensitivity syndrome, they almost
right,
always
About that before.
identify as females, as women,
yes,
and
yeah,
can look quite feminine, right? And act
yes.
feminine, but yeah, they got testes and testosterone. I don't know about the cancer risk. That's interesting. I suppose having so much testosterone produced could actually
I
increase the risk of cancer, testicular cancers, my guess.
Perhaps, but perhaps I think maybe Amy's right that she would have less of a chance of breast cancer. But you know, the
That's
only context I heard it in was saying that she has to get them checked to make sure that there's no problems, kind of thing. But it was just sort of really factual, and you know, I just could you imagine like forcing her to go into a men's bathroom? Like it just is, it's so wrong. You know, like it's just so wrong, and
right.
it doesn't affect these people very much at all. They don't actually care about trans people. Because
Right.
the one
Not at
thing I
all.
want to say, and I might have to go in a bit, but I should have a bit of time. What they don't do is suggest any alternative to trans affirming care. Like they don't say, hey, we've got this treatment that can do this, or we can do this, or through our church we can do. All they're basically saying is, um, we don't like the way that you're treating these people who are in a very vulnerable spot that have high incidence of mortality through self-inflicted harm, kind of thing. And they're basically giving no other alternative and just going, no, stop that. It's like,
Yes.
what have you got that else we can do? Like,
So,
Right.
you know,
At the
Back in
very
the
least, there
closet.
should be the expectation that they
well,
come in with something that actually is going to be beneficial for them.
right,
Like, because
right,
that's what we're trying to do with gender affirming care. And it's been
right.
shown over and over again that it does decrease the risk of self harm.
come on.
And of course, that makes
Absolutely.
sense, right?
In
Like, if you're
most
getting the
cases.
care where you're no longer, say, suffering from distress of having your body not matching your internal perspective of what your gender is,
Right.
and then also being in a situation where you're actually being validated for these things, of course it's going to have the beneficial effect. So what is their
Yeah.
alternative? Because they're coming in saying like, no, it's not valid, and we're not offering any sort of alternative. Just like stop it, knock it off.
Some of
Yeah.
them do have
Yeah.
alternatives. They're bad alternatives, but they do consider them alternatives. Some of them are just
But they
like
don't work.
that's a different issue. Some of them will
Right.
bring up the 42% statistic that they never understand, and others will suggest conversion therapy. Now, as an ex-Mormon, there is a very famous BYU study conducted in the late 70s where they tried electroshock aversion therapy, and the only thing I can give the Mormons credit for on that is they stopped it quickly because they realized it didn't work.
Yes.
Well, they love to bring up the the instances where people transition and it doesn't do what they thought it was going to do, and they end up transitioning back. The small minority of cases where that happens.
Tiny.
Yeah, right.
minority.
It's
Yes.
the overwhelming majority of people benefit from it, but that's like the thing with any medical treatment. There are always people who will get it who might not,
What are you doing?
wouldn't have the desired effect. But of course, their solution is, well, if it doesn't work out for one person, then none of them should transition. Yeah.
Well, there's a higher percentage of people that regret breast augmentation.
Right.
Or Harry Potter tattoos.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And even just basic general surgeries that are sort of somewhat elective, but not even having to do with anything, say, related to appearance or plastic. There's a much higher percentage in like those kinds of surgeries of regret than for gender affirming care.
I think a lot of them just. I think a lot of them just think like the 1950s was the peak U.S. society, and there were a lot of things about the 50s I like. I do like the aesthetics of the Fallout universe.
Sure. And mid-century modern is a wonderful style.
Air pollution probably wasn't as bad.
I was giving it more credit. I was saying earlier to Amy that it's like they think that the 90s was the pinnacle of human thought and knowledge, and they're basically saying our definitions, the way we use words, has to stay stuck in the 90s. It can't progress, which is not reality.
And I have to go back to something Mark Reed said, because I have to disagree with him on a slight point that some dictionaries are prescriptive, especially if they're for specialized fields, because one of the arguments I got into last summer was over whether or not 1 times 1 is actually equals 1 because a certain actor totally misunderstood basic mathematics. But yeah, the definition of how multiplication does in a math dictionary is prescriptive. You can't redefine it.
Well, no, I get you, but I still think it's prescriptive. It's still describing how it's used in a technical sense. Because there's no reason why people couldn't disagree, like they could make their own meaning and use it. There's no reason why, if they both understand what it means, that they could use it.
Well, and the other thing, to pretend that the definition, and the thing is, like, to pretend that like the dictionary only has one single definition for words is obviously not true. Especially if we're considering the word man. Man is a complex concept, and so we are going to have multiple definitions, just like for other complex concepts like chair or cool. Like the word cool can mean it can be an adjective, it could be a noun or a verb, and even within each of those categories, it means very different things depending upon the context.
The thing is,
absolutely,
it's the context of what the dictionary is used for. A general purpose dictionary is not prescriptive; it's descriptive.
Yes, exactly. It is descriptive. It's just
whereas
one tool that we have for language and communication, and it's right, exactly.
Mathematical definitions are prescriptive.
Of course, yes.
They update the dictionary based on
to begin with.
How people are speaking, not the other way around. We don't all have to go around and say, oh we can't use that word this way because it's the dictionary. No, the dictionary responds to us, not the other way around.
Exactly.
Like I said, a technical dictionary for a specific field might be prescriptive rather than descriptive.
I need to get going. I'm gonna eat something and go to bed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thompson.
So yes,
great to have you on.
Hey, Amy, I just want to say, I'm going to cut my video here. Hopefully, I won't knock out, but you did fantastic. Again, I just want to emphasize just how great you were, and I really was so glad that you were my partner tonight.
Thank you so very much, Doctor. It was lovely, and not only having you here, thank you for joining us tonight, but having you as a debate partner was amazing. I think you knocked it out of the park.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Good seeing everyone. Good seeing you guys.
See you, Chris.
Good night,
Adios.
Amy is a master debater. Okay, we all know this.
That's what I like to tell people in parking lots. What are we still talking about?
I think we were talking about cats and how we haven't seen yours.
Midnight.
Oh my goodness! I just had Buttercup was sleeping up there, but they must have snuck away when I snuck away for a second. I was listening, but
I saw one of them jump down before. I think it was Buttercup.
Yeah, they'll probably sneak in again soon. But it was
I can't help but think that this sort of, this die on this hill about what gender means is somehow related to maintaining a power structure that should have been put to bed like ages ago. This sort of because they're not really concerned about trans men that much. They're concerned about trans women. And I don't know. I don't know why they're threatened so much. I don't understand. Like, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect them. I don't understand at all.
I personally think it's because trans women are willingly giving up societal power to fill a role that is less powerful or perceived as less powerful. It was amazing how much less I knew about computers as soon as my breast got larger. But
wow, yeah. I believe that too. I've seen like a guy who pretended to be a woman in emails, and the woman took his email address, and how they were treated as engineers was just completely different as soon as they started using each other's email addresses.
I am going to enter someone. There's a weird way of saying that. I'm
Enter
going to bring
someone.
someone on
Okay.
that I think Mark may know. We are
I'll
going
go
to
with
keep the conversation going. We
I
are
go with-
going to bring the lovely Ember. We are Midnight Ranting on our trans men. How are you doing? What are your thoughts on anything we've been talking about, the subject?
And I was hoping it was ultimately Judeo-Christian for some good old-fashioned.
Oh,
Ah,
don't
okay,
even.
well,
Up
I mean-
so much recently. It's wild. Yeah.
It's,
So
it's
there's
nostalgia. It's good memories. Come on now.
Well, yeah, fun time anyhow.
Yeah, fun times.
So obviously, trans men are men. Definitionally, every way you can conceivably slice it, it's just derp. But so I've been listening, but doing other stuff. Mark and I wrapped our debate review, which is why the read raid happened, and I've been setting up
Yeah.
streams for this week and all that stuff. On this point that they're mostly focused on trans women, that's only from a certain point of view. What we encounter on YouTube seems to be mostly trans women this, trans women that. What we
Yes.
encounter from the ranting Republicans, the red hats, it's trans women are horrible predators and yada yada. But the gender criticals, the conspiracy theorists who are running around, the Jen Specks, the Helen Joyces, the Abigail Schreiers, they tend to be equally, if not more, focused on trans men. I mean, the cover of Abigail's book is a little girl with a hole where her uterus should be. You know, that it's dichotomous. There is the other side to this. It's just not as present on YouTube, where they conceive of trans men as girls who are victims just as much as trans women are males who are perpetrators of some grievous, perverse crime.
If I may make an aside here, I would just like to say I think MAGA would have much better outfits if they weren't so anti-gay. I mean, the original generation
absolutely.
Nazis
I
had
have
much better fashion sense.
Making this
Well,
joke
that
for
was
a while,
Hugo Boss, right?
but they need just. I wish a gay man or a trans someone would tackle him. He has literally a seam. Like it is like a country border. You can see where the orange ends and like his real true skin color begins.
He's got a gay treasury set. Maybe you could invite Scott Bassett into the Oval Office and give him some tips.
George
Even
Santos,
Pete
no
Hegseth,
more.
the dude, he's a freaking
Secretary
TV guy.
WikiLeaks.
He had a makeup studio installed in the Pentagon so he can look slightly prettier on air.
Okay.
Excuse me, that is to make sure that the military is very represented and beautiful.
Let's get back to the point.
But we just fired all the fabulous troops.
Oh, picky. Those are government federal workers, excuse me. Yeah, but that's interesting that you put that. I'll tell you something. There used to be a lot of criticism. Anti-vaxxers used to be a far left thing. And so it is, I guess, now it is this far right thing. Now they're it used to be, I guess these TERFs can hate, trans men, and then the fundamentalists hate trans women, and then they come together and they make a horrible stew.
Well, I mean, they're all motivated by the same fundamental goal: to control people's lives, to tell women how they have to be women. And if you look wrong, if your hair's too short, if you're a lesbian, if you happen to be wearing flannel and you go to the wrong hotel, you might just have male security guards busting into the bathroom to kick you out.
Well, that happened.
that was dreadful.
Of all places.
And that's what I
didn't hear anything about that.
Massachusetts. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Well, I said to Ember, I feel really bad for that woman. I really do. But at the same time, it just shows how stupid the policy is. So I kind of, she took one for the team kind of thing. It sucks for her though. Like seriously.
I really appreciate how in interviews she said, this is what happened. This is how abhorrent the behavior of people involved was and how the hotel tried to cover it up. And then at the very end, she finishes, and this is the kind of bullshit that trans people have to deal with every day.
Right.
But was it an actual policy of the hotel, or was it just an overzealous security guard? Because
accounts vary. Shocking, I know. Officially, they're fully inclusive, and the security guard fucked up. But that's the third version of their story. So
yes, as far as I know, some person called the security section, the hotel security, and like they were sent out there to make sure it wasn't, somebody in the wrong bathroom, as far as I know. And I didn't really hear whether the hotel decided that or whether, I think they are just blaming the security guard at this point.
I do not know a single cis woman who has not been in a men's bathroom. Not because they're like trying to get away with something, but because lines are long.
It's filled. Yeah.
Right. I was just about to say, I've been at a club before, and like a girl goes in because she's like, the line is just too long for the girls, and we're like, don't care. Who cares?
mm-hmm.
Because the whole point of a bathroom, get in, get out. It's really not the
right. And you'd have unisex bathrooms, like in a corporate environment kind of thing. Like
there's an airport. I forget which city it is, but one of our major airports, the main bathroom is everybody. It's an unisex. Open space with sinks to wash your hands, and the stalls just have doors and walls, like they should.
In fact, my favorite, I feel like it's a good late 2010s joke. It just has like a Cthulhu head and a mystery question mark, and it says, whatever, just wash your hands.
Oh, Senator Larry
it's better than most.
Wide stance incident.
Oh, yeah.
I took a wide stance.
Well, we all know one of the Republicans are so against trans women in this country is because they don't know there's a difference between gay people and trans people.
It's a big part of it. I see a lot of red hats in comments threads who are like, there's no difference between trans people and cross-dressers.
Yeah, they don't understand sexuality and gender. They don't understand any difference whatsoever.
No, and they don't
They
care
don't want to
to
understand. Yeah, they don't want to understand.
Yes,
they just think it's icky. And yeah.
Well, yeah, but we can't legislate based on things that are icky to me. Otherwise,
they try.
No,
well, I would love to legislate on things
that
are against things that are icky to me, but
I know. I'd ban red hats. I mean, well, not all red hats.
Taylor
I have
Green.
a fabulous red hat around here somewhere.
Bruno Mars music.
But that was a major argument that I used to get about gay marriage was we just don't want to see, that's disgusting. We don't want to see people kissing.
Yeah, I don't want to see people kissing regardless. I'm not going to stop
like new
that.
laws, no kissing.
It's like no kissing. I don't care what. Just no kissing in public.
And that's a way cuter hat than a MAGA hat. I'll give you.
And yes, straight couples, this applies to you too.
What does that remind me of? That reminds me of M. Bison off of Street Fighter. That's awesome.
I've been getting that a lot.
It looks like something from the Street Fighter movie.
It's part of a cosplay I put together as like a Red Wing airship pilot. Hence the wings, but because it's got that slight military flavor to it, a lot of people just went straight for Street Fighter. I'm like, yeah, it's cute, whatever.
It worked. Hey, I like Street Fighter. Street Fighter's a great game.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. I think I overspoke when I said great. It was good.
Listen, when there weren't that many games that are disposable.
Well, that's
disposal. True. If I could again speak English.
There were
English
plenty of games.
But I will say, because it's one that will go about probably another 30 minutes. I am going to do actually a shout out for anyone who disagrees with us. Mwahaha. If you don't think that trans men are men, or you think that there is no separation between gender and sex, now is the time to join.
And if you're going to come in and call any of us attack helicopters, please get a new joke.
Be fantastic.
That barely qualifies.
The same people
come on
who
and
say
tell us
trans is a brand new thing, it's only been around 5 years, are using a joke from 2009.
Yeah, I just
I
spent 2 days
don't
on Twitter arguing with a white nationalist.
Oh. Listen, it wasn't.
Yeah, come
It
fight.
wasn't a nationalist, okay? He was, he was throwing his arm up to show how much he loved people in a specific angle.
I'm being tagged, but I don't remember what the context was.
Oh, the Zig Halon.
Yes, no, that wasn't a Zig Hail, okay?
They were doing
I
the
said
new
Zig
Kanye
Elon.
song.
Oh, a Zig Elon. Listen, he was just randomly talking to any sort of political party. What was that political party? In what country? Germany? Nationalists? That much on the nose? Okay. Anyway. Do.
Hey, if it weren't for the original generation Nazis, I might know the Pennsylvania Dutch dialect of German.
I'm just glad that we're this far into the presidency and we're not speaking Russian. I love my Russian civilian brothers and sisters, though.
Hail, comrade. Hey, I have the right hat. Hail, comrades.
There you go.
Yay.
Just not Putin. But all the regular Russians sending love to all of you.
All
I gotta throw out everything I was drinking
data
now.
hackers and
So I have a question since Trump needs to bring non-woke musicals.
Oh, God.
I would love to.
Dear.
I would challenge him to find any theater troupe without gay people in it. But
Yes, for those who don't know, he did make himself the president. I'm trying to think whatever. He put himself in charge of the Harvard Kennedy Center. He's in charge of the plays right now. And I'm looking forward to his play selection.
When you look at Trump, it just screams culture, doesn't it?
He screams operas when I look at him. Exactly.
Yeah.
I've heard
fine art is what I think.
I've heard that to increase attendance at his events, he's going to turn it into a monster truck venue.
That sounds about right. I assume McDonald's. I just love how easy he is to bribe. We shouldn't be going into Trump, but I can't help myself. Oh my goodness!
I'm just waiting for him to attend his first play.
I just want to know what the first non-woke musical he's going to bring in is.
That's true. I mean, yeah.
The
vast majority of them are all kind of little social justice-y. We'll see.
Yeah.
If we're doing the go back in time thing, maybe the play will be Our American Cousin.
Maybe he'll do the play who's backwards.
The cast of Les Miserables said no to him because apparently he still doesn't realize that.
Hey, Jim, good to see you.
What's up, Jim?
Do you hear the people sing is about overthrowing a king?
Yes.
Yes.
Oliver Twist is just too absolutely too socialist.
Maybe we'll see Chess.
Oh, what is the one musical Little Orphan Annie? I think where they sing the song about Thank you, Mr. Hoover.
I'd be up for that. I'm the Book of Mormon. I'll take anything. Him, just like you said, him just being at a play, that'd be like him eating a salad. I'm not saying it's impossible.
Well, it's not just going to a play. It's you have to get the special box, which you'd have to do for presidential security reasons and whatnot. And have a meet and greet with one of the actors.
I feel like unless the musical is about golf, he's just gonna zone out,
Having read the musical, having seen the musical, and having read the book, even though the book has no connection, the book and the musical have no connection to each other.
Which one?
I'll have to the Book of Mormon.
Oh, the Book of Mormon.
You're an ex-Mormon. Book.
Hey, I've heard great reviews. That's all I'm saying. Sending love to the people bot spamming on Twitch. You shouldn't buy your viewers. Ken Hovind learned that the hard way.
We did just send greetings to the Russian bot.
Did he though? Because he was cancelled again off YouTube. So did he?
I like how all of them are being canceled. Seriously, yeah. What Darth Dawkins? He's been regulated to God knows whatever thing, and Ken Hovind is on a Moogle or something.
Darth Dawkins just needs to be slapped upside the head on general
Is he still
principle.
there?
I mean,
Probably.
not that I normally advocate violence, but every time I hear him, it's just I just want to smack
It's
him.
okay. We can mentally slap him up.
We can make an exception for him.
Well, we could convince his mom to do it.
Oh,
Isn't he like 60?
He lit.
then she'd have to go
lit-
down the basement stairs.
But that was the
that's
Great
true.
Revolution. I'm sorry, Ember. I shouldn't just to roast someone. Continue.
I was just saying, Gary's mom, to slap him, she'd have to go down the basement stairs.
There we go. She beat me to. Thank you. He does. He
Gary,
lives with
have
his
you
mom.
showered
Now
this
listen,
week?
there is nothing wrong with living with your parents. Also, certain circumstances happen. However, just to be that much of a condescending, whew. But sending love,
Well, just
we are. Oh no, Mark, you were about to say something.
well, he just points out, like, makes everybody like, oh, you're so immature compared to me. Mom, could you get me a snack?
You sound like a 13-year-old. And Mom,
Yeah.
I'll come down for dinner soon. Yeah, exactly.
Mom, I need more Hot Pockets.
I am not going to miss Darth Dawkins when he finally goes away, but does he actually have any fans?
No, like I said,
Yes.
I haven't been seeing videos of
He
him.
does.
Yes, he does. I'll tell you why. Because if you're that much into the sauce, that is, you're that much of a Christian or whatever the hell, they don't win over us. They don't win over skeptics. But if you're already a Christian, you can use that many terminology and jargon-filled words that you can sometimes bully, maybe other skeptics and stuff, and they go, oh, look at them, they're bullying people and they're getting them to believe just like I am. Really, they're just acting like a-holes and oftentimes getting kicked. My favorite, sending love to Tom Rabbit, is that he has a sound effect every time someone gets kicked. It's like a Grand Theft Auto sounded like. It's like whoosh.
And muted too.
I have only ever I would not be aware of him at all if it weren't for people making fun of him.
That's that sounds about
Valid.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna change the subject completely because we only have a little
Yes.
bit of time. I have a bunch of skeptics on here. It has nothing to do with transgenders, so I'm gonna completely. I just want all of your hot takes really quickly. All right, because James said I'm gonna be processing this. I go through this. AP just converted to Christianity. Prostate prophet. Anyone have any thoughts on
I
that?
have no idea who he is.
It's not April 1st.
Don't really care. He's been hanging out. I sort of predicted that because he was hanging out with David Woods so much.
Yo,
David Wood is interesting because his approach to why you should be Christian is kind of pragmatic, like, oh, we've got to stop Islam kind of thing. So it's very weird to hear him talk because it's almost like he's saying, well, it'll be a good thing to have a Christian nation and all of these Christian values, but that doesn't mean a God exists. So I don't know whether they believe. Maybe they do. I don't know. But to me, it seems like a pragmatic thing for giving Islam the mid-digit, basically.
But
I say, just. Oh no, were you gonna make a joke? If you want to make a joke, do timing.
no, it wouldn't even be a joke. It's just I don't even get that argument. It's like if you want to defeat Islam, you don't have to convert to Christianity.
Yes,
Islam-
exactly.
I know. I'm very
Well,
aware.
So, okay, I want to say two
Sure.
weird things. Number one, my partner drove David Wood around during the Debate-a-con. I've met David Wood. I was like, hello. He was a lovely gentleman. Okay, fact number one. Fact number two, he is an admitted psychopath. Goes around explaining to people that he is a psychopath, that he was diagnosed with psychopathy, not like he's just armchair. And he says it is Christianity that keeps him from being a psychopath.
Well,
Yes.
fine.
Well, psychopaths get a bad rap, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. It's the one, there's the one that was raised. Sociopath,
That's psychopath.
psychopath.
Sociopath is learned. Yeah, sociopath's usually trauma or some sort of issue during your life.
Yes,
Psychopaths
you should
are born
separate
with
that
no
out.
sense of empathy. Yes.
I just think it's a weird argument to make, and it's even weirder. Again, he was a perfectly lovely guy. I don't want to sit here and say, but it is a weird argument. It's even weirder to me to convert to religion because of that guy. Like,
Well, it's a bit of pragmatism for me. It's like, let's take the example of Glenn Beck, who unfortunately he and I have the same birthday. I really wish we didn't, but we do.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'll forgive you.
You're forgiven for having a birthday on an
No, I
inconvenient date.
don't. Damn you, Glenn Beck.
But I would rather have Glenn Beck be what he is now than a raging alcoholic, which is a washed-up radio talk show host that no one takes seriously anymore. It's like, if religion just keeps you from going out and murdering people, I'm okay with you being religious, as if the price for you not murdering people is you have to be religious.
I agree.
Well, I don't really care if people are religious. Like, I've experimented with some of them. I had some fun as a neo-pagan. Some of the rituals were a little bit weird, but some of them were a fucking blast. It's whatever. It's that whole, now that I believe I have the absolute truth of the revealed mysteries of the cosmos, I get to tell you, in fact, I have to tell you how to live. It's my moral duty to make you live the way my magic book says. That's where we have a problem.
Or else.
And I think the problem is that they'll go, the only reason why I'm not a murderer or an alcoholic is because of God and because of Christianity. And I don't think that's the case. I think there's a number of ways to sort of solve your problems. So, okay, that worked for you. Great. I certainly wouldn't say, hey, you're not allowed to do that. But, this whole thing about, well, it worked for me, so it's the only way. That's a problem because other people have done it in other ways. Some people have used secular therapy. Some people have, just white knuckled it along, So I don't see that as being true because there's counterfactuals for it.
Yeah, we have two prominent members of our community who could not get clean while they were practicing Christians because it was constantly taking personal responsibility and shoving it off on Jesus. Jesus, I can't do this on my own. Save me, save me.
Oh.
When they left, though, then they cleaned up their lives without the church.
The framework that works for you is the framework that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue, even if you go through the AA's program, you're just still doing it on your own. You're just saying, I'm going to pretend like God is helping me through this.
Oh yeah, mental crutches are super useful. Like when you're in an insufferably bad job, your employment is making you miserable, making you sick, whatever the case may be. If you have the ability to walk away, it gets a lot easier to handle because you can always say, I can leave tomorrow or at the end of the day or whatever. And then it's less of a burden. It's when you're trapped. And even if your financial situation is identical in both hypothetical situations, just having that mental escape hatch, that pressure release valve of I can leave makes such a big difference, even though it's a purely mental construct.
I mean, you can also argue the success rates in AAs is actually lower than a lot of other similar programs. And it tends to work best for the people who are already religious.
That would make sense because I've never been through the program myself, but my dad had to. He got a whole shit ton of DWIs when I was a kid, and he was a pagan. And so they start, they phrase it in terms of like higher power, whatever, but it's very clearly Christian stuff with a find and replace in the script. And it not only did it not help, it kind of made things worse because he didn't believe any of the bullshit,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I gave up smoking, like nicotine smoking, and that was just white knuckling it along kind of thing, with no real help. I mean, I read a few self-help books. I read a bit about it kind of thing and started to understand addiction. And that was way better. Like understanding what addiction is and, what's causing it and stuff is way better than, begging Jesus to come down help. That's my opinion, though. It may work for some people.
Amy's about to say something.
Well, no, I always do. You can feel my ADHD sometimes. I can't help it. But I could not agree more with what you both were saying. I think that we need secular alternatives. And when you have secular alternatives, when you have not only groups that have nothing aligned with a religion, but are about getting someone maybe unaddicted, when you have, like you were saying, Mark, when you have self-help books, when you have us coming together, sometimes we have family, whether that is biological or just found family that can sometimes help us.
If any trans men are out there and want to come in, please do so, because we could really use that.
Yes, shit. Trans men are men.
Never a trans man when I'm looking for one.
Actually, there's someone who, sorry, I don't know why this triggered that, but it's like one of these local stand-up comedians who runs the open mic night is short, so he often gets asked if he's a trans man.
I want to make a Tom Cruise joke, but I also want to keep this stream going in the foreseeable future.
I don't really understand this. Is Tom Cruise short?
Yes, but
very short.
But he's in this religion I don't know if anyone's heard of. I don't know the heard of it. I think it's called lawyertology. I'm just kidding. I love you. Oh my god, he makes good movies, so I let that go, as everyone else does.
If you want to sue her, her name's John Smith.
That's right. You can find me in Utah. I live somewhere with my golden tablets. I wish you luck in finding me.
But the golden tablets were found in New York.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I was just by there today. Okay, they did a little detour. Afterlife from the Hive. Hello, Bree. Afterlife from the Hive. I went, I'm going to go play with the damn lilacs. And I know where there's like a wall of lilacs. And it's like an 1.5-hour drive. And I have to go through Palmyra to get there. So I went, I did the lilac thing. I went through Palmyra and I like waved at the big monument they've got where they printed the first edition of the Book of Mormon and all this shit. And then I drove the 12 miles to the Fox sisters' house because that was what was on Live from the Hive today.
Ooh,
there's a bunch of cool shit in that little section of New York.
New York is awesome, except for the fraud part of that. But yes, still awesome.
I really miss that they no longer do the Hilkamora pageant.
They don't?
Or do they? I mean, I've
been to it once. I haven't driven past it in a couple of years, but I know they paused it for COVID, but they brought it back in, I think, 2022.
Oh, good. That has to be a summer road trip with like a bunch of atheists.
Yeah, it's like it's their main thing, other than having a couple of giant frickin' temples. And holy crap, they just built a new main temple and retired the old one in the Palmyra area. And I had to deliver there, which was a trip because none of these elders, there's these 900-year-old people in pure white.
I have to interrupt because Mormon temples are usually so goddamn ugly. Is it a good building or is it an architectural eyesore?
It kind of looks like it wants to be an elven castle, but very much isn't.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
But that's funny because we normally are like, well, they might have burned a bunch of little children at the stake for not believing in their God. But man, their architecture is so pretty.
Yeah.
I do like the Washington, D.C. temple, though.
That one does look, I mean, it's not an elven castle, but it looks like a castle. I got to give them that.
I also love the people who like paint Surrender Dorothy on the underpass outside of it.
I hadn't seen that part. I'm stuck on the interstate, so I only see this shit in the distance.
Would it even be better if someone like just bought a field there and planted poppies? Because the locals call it Oz.
Oh my.
That's fair, yeah.
our podcast sponsored by can't even
Sorry.
do what
But yeah.
Bewitched. What's the movie?
Wicked.
Wicked. Thank you.
Ah.
My brain is truly melting. It is.
Okay.
It's a great movie and play. I just like Wicked because it was made by a fan, which is kind of crazy. She's just like, I'm obsessed with the Wizard of Oz, and I'm gonna give everyone backstories.
Fan fiction for the win. What is the
Yes.
deal? Like, I understand why Hollywood is motivated to retell stories that have already been told, that have been proven to make money, but like in literature, it's sort of the same thing. Like every major thing that's been a big hit for a while now has been a reboot or a retelling or a spin-off. It's the same as the Hollywood.
Well, this
Well,
is a great time. Oh no, you're about to say something.
When you consolidate all the media into one company, they're unwilling to take new risks.
That's true. It
You
is
really-
basically Disney Paramount Plus at this point, but whatever.
And Warner Brothers.
Disney Paramount Warner Brothers Plus, exactly. When I buy things, I just say I'm going to the Borg, and going to Amazon.com. You know, all of them just slowly taking over. What was? I had another joke and I forgot about it.
And yet they're breaking up Google in a way that's going to be terribly ineffective.
I remember when Google's slogan was "Do good."
Do no
Don't
evil.
be evil.
Do no
Yeah,
evil.
don't be evil. That's it.
Don't be evil. Oh, goody.
We're all very tired.
My brains truly are chugging along, and we're probably gonna do outros in a few moments. But is there anything anyone has to say in the open mic right now? Any other some points?
Be gay, do crimes.
BK do crimes.
Protect the bricks.
Eat the rich. Nom 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 nom.
And remember, when you think of sinister porpoises, think of the sinister porpoise.
All right. Yes, I think that no opposing views have come. I think that we are going to head out to outros. I am trying to remember. All right, we're going to go in the opposite order. And now I'm just noticing go counterclockwise. That we are going to go. Amber, you were the latest person to join us. You're going to be the first as we go into our midnight ranting outros. Our trans men. Do. If you thought memorizing something, you should watch me button push at like 1 a.m. Oh my goodness. Anyway.
Hey, that's what midnight ranting is for. Ranting at midnight.
That is very true. For once, we're on topic, on key. We are midnight ranting on our trans men. Lovely having you, Amber. Where can we find you? What do you got going on, and what are your final thoughts?
In reverse order, final thoughts. I mean, we're undefeated tonight. There was no opposition. We win by default. Trans men are men. So hooray! Settled that one. On to capitalism or something. I am Better Than Ember. You can find me on various places across the YouTubes and the internets generally. My main channel is Better Than Ember here on YouTube, but all my other links are on my website, betterthanember.com. Stuff coming up. I got a surprise ambush from Helen Green earlier this evening, and so I'm doing a surprise live stream with her tomorrow afternoon. Well, today afternoon now. And I don't know what the hell we're gonna do, but it should be fun. And then of course Thursdays, Transpositions News, 8 p.m. Eastern on that channel, The Transpositions. And then Saturday, Mark will be joining me over at my place for part 2 of the debate review we started earlier tonight. And probably other things too, but Sinister. I'm doing a thing with Sinister on Friday at her place, I think. So there's a lot going on, which is why I keep all my links in one place at betterthanumber.com. Wink, wink.
And all right, thank you so very much. You should be checking all of the fantastic, fabulous content that Ember is doing. Ember, thank you so very much for joining us.
Always
And
a pleasure, Amy.
yeah, staying right back at you. And all right, we are moving down to Marguerite, sending so much love. We are midnight ranting on our trans men. Hope you had a fabulous time. Where can people find you, and what are your final thoughts?
Thank you, Amy. And it's so good to see you. I feel like I haven't been on forever, so it's really good to be on. And thank you so much. Yeah, of course, trans men are men. Men and women, it's just a gender role. It's just a social construct. There's nothing that says men can't wear dresses. Men can't have feminine traits. There's nothing saying this. It's something we made it up. We made it up. So just realize that if people are happier being in the gender of their choice, it doesn't affect you. It doesn't really have a, there's no problem with it. Just get over it, seriously. But thank you for coming. I generally do a few things during the week, but that's okay. On Tuesday night Eastern time or Wednesday Australian time, Wednesday morning, I have Aimbot, Am I Morally Bankrupt or Them? We'll be looking at some moral situations. And on Thursday night or Friday morning Australian, I have Fundamentalist Fails, where I'll be looking at somebody saying some hilarious, fundy things that don't make any sense because it's funny. But thank you so much for having me on. Thanks to everybody on the panel for being awesome. And yeah, it's great to be here.
Thank you so very much, Mark. If you like both Ember and Mark, like I was just going with peanut butter and chocolate, they just did a stream, so you should be checking that out. Thank you as always, Mark. Lovely having you on.
Thank you.
And all right, Sinister, we have been midnight ranting on our trans men. I hope you had a fun time. Where can people find you? Again, the gears turning slowly but surely. And what are your final thoughts?
All right. The channel with this name has to be inactive as long as I have my current job. Sorry. I really wish I could come back to it, but unfortunately, it's just the way things have to be. You can find me at Mad Computer Scientist, the Mad Computer Scientist on YouTube here. Friday, I'll be going over with Ember. Normally that channel is about math, computer science topic, but this time, Friday nights, I do something a little bit different. And we'll be going over basically the biggest Kent Hovind fanboys I've ever seen, called Real Science Radio, who did a stream called Gender Clarity, and because I've been so busy, I haven't been up in all the latest research for trans people. So I invited someone on who was. And it should be a prime opportunity for mockery because I've never seen these people say anything intelligent. But, okay, so it's going to sound bad for I'm going next, but remember, try to be excellent to each other, and so long, and thanks for all the fish.
Woo-hoo. Thank you so very much, Sinister. And all right, we are headed down. James, co-pilot, land us. We have been midnight ranting on our trans men. Hope you had a fun
land
time.
me, daddy. Land me.
That is what I like to know. Again, that's going to be the stripper that I pay later. What are we talking about? Midnight ranting our trans men. I hope you had fun. James, any final thoughts?
Amazing.
Listen, I can't believe you would say something so daring. I feel like when they look back, the TOS is going to have cut this part out.
So
Yeah,
controversial.
so profound. So profound.
But James might have been working earlier. He might have passed out.
The trans flag.
That is okay. Sending so much love. Let's finish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Am I even mathing? I don't feel like I'm mathing right. Okay, it was 5. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and my gut went, it's 5.
Well, you know what the two most difficult problems in computer science are? Naming, cache invalidation, and off by 1 errors.
Oh, just any sort of type of error, generally, unless it's just like a simple syntax error, makes me frustrated. I'm not as bad as I've had friends that punch very specific parts of their computer. But listen, that's the fun part about programming, okay?
The violence?
The new profanity you learn?
It's called percussive maintenance, actually.
Yes.
Technical taps.
Yes, what were we doing? I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Midnight Ranting, our trans men, where we threw a after show debate party from modern day debate on the debate topic, our trans men, man, for a transient good time, for a good time with transportation, for us using Trans-Ams.
And the
Transformative.
transcendental argument.
The transcendental, we flew over the transatlantic. Again, these are all words you cannot use in the American government,
Yeah.
I think, anymore.
Oh, no.
But
Then we'll go to Transalpina Gaul.
no.
While listening to the Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
And they'll force you to eat trans fat. Okay, this is. Feel like I'm stepping on.
I don't think Robert Kennedy believes in trans fats, actually.
I believe Robert Kennedy is probably going to ban transmissions.
Pretty sure he huffs transmissions. Oh my goodness, he doesn't like vaccines, but he was swimming in sewage. But I feel like our politics are TMZ. Like they're the equivalent of TMZ. Like I say them out loud and I feel cheaper as a human being for spreading them. Even though they're facts. He was there. In a banned lake. It was a banned body of water.
I'd like to apologize for electing Kurt Vonnegut God.
Again, whatever your political values are, we still love you. Just love your other citizens. Anyway, I know they do. They don't view it that way. Trying to be good and kind and charitable, even when I feel like things are on fire. We're not going to attack Canada. We're not going to grab Iceland. That'd be crazy. They tell me he's trolling.
I think he's
trying to own the libs.
I hope he's trolling.
You can finish it. I was going to say this isn't a political stream. It randomly is a political stream. We almost could talk about it. But he is an endless funnel. Like, truly, it is like looking into a void, an orange void.
Well, maybe he'll get a gay friend that'll teach him how to blend his foundation.
Oh my god, I would tackle him, and the Secret Service would try to tackle me, and they'd say, put it down, and I'd be like, but it's Maybelline. It's whatever. It bothers me almost as much as a political thing. It is literally like a line, like the North and South Korea, like where you see the lights on and the lights off. It's not the most important thing, and yet it's just it is an illustration of where our politics are.
It's kind of emblematic of incompetence, really.
Just because I
It's a showcase.
was really hesitant to make fun of him in his first term because I thought he had a skin condition.
It also means he has no true friends, not to get super serial about it, because I am trying to roast him. But he has no one who he either has yes men who are just too afraid of him. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Or, like I said, no LG, or as everyone else's point, no LGBTQ people, or a woman who cares about him within 20 feet of him. So
what are you saying about Melania?
She doesn't live there. She has spent very little time. She chosen to not live there, but I guess she doesn't want to be the first woman to divorce a president mid, being president.
At this point, she stuck around so long after it was obvious that it did whatever. I'm pretty sure she's waiting for him to shuffle off the mortal coil so she can get her payout because
it would be better than a prenuptial. Yeah, that
But
would be my
see,
guess.
yeah.
Can I
because
tell you
at
where the
this point-
flaw in her plan is? The flaw is that each chicken nugget slowly is encasing him, to which he will eventually be in immortal McDonald's figurine, and she just hasn't figured that out.
He's turning into Ronald McDonald. That actually could explain a lot. But also,
Yeah,
I'm thinking of
I
that
don't know.
museum in Iceland
I feel like Ronald McDonald's better with makeup.
and with children
And
Yeah,
with
that's true.
people.
and ice cream machines.
And Ronald McDonald ran a successful business.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
Well, once
like a
again,
war.
there's all the joking birds, and then it gets real.
Mhm. Yeah, for shizzles.
Yeah, McDonald's hasn't had to declare bankruptcy 6 times or
Once.
at a casino. They all think those are cheap shots. I actually think those are good. If your claim to fame is you're a businessman, I feel like those are. If you
They're
can't show
very
your
expensive shots. Thank you very much.
Now, I'd hire Trump as a marketing consultant in a minute, but I would not hire him to run a business.
Yes, he is good at that. He is good at making people with ADHD fume over random, stupid things like Arnold Palmer's penis that have nothing to do with anything while he sends people literally to Alcatraz. I say literally, but it's like this weird line where like it's only like it's somewhere between metaphorical and literal. Like he wants it
He's
to be
planning to
literal.
reopen Alcatraz.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. If you were to take Onion articles, they have to compete. I feel like really hard to compete with regular news right now.
They're having the worst time. Like every time they do come up with something original, it literally happens
just
within
happens.
24 hours.
I know they're profits.
Mhm.
I realize that this will sound like I'm making it up, but I'm not. Someone came out and said he actually watched Escape from Alcatraz the night before he announced that.
No, that is the. It's weird. Is that's the official rumor? As in, that's if you were to go on all of the legacy media channels and all that. That seems to be. He was watching it and just randomly on a flight and was like, Alcatraz, that looks deadly. I should open that.
But also, I think that's kind of a clear sign of dementia, which is even more worrying.
Oh well, we know he's had dementia since
come
the first
on,
presidency,
yeah.
but yeah, it was somebody deduced that there was a local DC channel, classic movies or whatever, that was playing Escape from Alcatraz, which you would think might make him go, huh? People can escape from there. Maybe that's not the best place to send people.
I never even thought about that. The movie is called Escape from Alcatraz.
Well, he also referenced a shark attack, which was in the movie, but there's no proof it happened because
and
it's based on a real story.
Way too much about Hannibal Lecter in the positive light. But like, all right, this is what I mean. It's an endless void. We could do this forever. I'm gonna I think Mark was gonna say something, and then we're gonna end the.
No, I was good.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're supposed to end the stream.
Okay, you said exactly. Truly, like a butthole and a black hole mixed together. Anyway, high-end intelligence. I want to thank everyone for joining us on the Intertubes. Please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. I said it, YouTube.
Would that be a quasar? Because it's like a black hole, except it's blasting crap all across the universe?
Join us on Bad Science Sunday to ask that question and any questions about magnets of Maya Atkinson's co-host.
Oh my goodness. The weird thing about magnets is like when people stop believing in gravity, they start believing in all sorts of. I start hearing magnets and frequencies, and it's just like, dude, just believe in gravity. Just please. The internet. I'm sorry. Anyway, Then hit that bell icon to all so you can get reminders to join our live streams or see our premieres.
Like, subscribe, share, join the Patreon.
Yes. If you sending love to all the people who sent in super chats, sending love to Ian Davenport and all of our people at our evolving badge system. Evolution triggers creationists. So, help us out, and also, why evolution? Just it's 4.5 billion years old, and it's okay that things mutate. I know. I'm sorry. Or hey, why not leave a comment once the video is done? Though the best way to help us make even more content. Oh, I didn't say everyone's name. Is by sending us at patreon.com/Amy Newman. But I do want to send one final thank you to my co-host, James W., along with our panel, Ember, Marguerite, Sinister Porpoise, and Dr. Chris, as well as all the lovely people in chat. I love you so much. We'll see you all in the next episode of Skeptic Ball Z. Good night, everyone. Mwah!
May the odds be ever in your favor.